What's going on, X Factor Nation? We are back with a super fun NBA video today. We are breaking down the All-Star game. We're debating some guys. We're talking about last year's team. It's going to be a lot of fun. But first and foremost, Troy, Caleb, how you doing, boys?
Troy, how are you?
Hey, living the dream, man. How are you guys?
Doing good. For the weekly podcast this week, we thought, what is a topic we can get into? We can really get some nice conversation going, last a little bit. And what better case than the All-Star game this year? All-Star voting is upon us. All-Star game is in the middle. It's always in the middle of February, correct? It's not in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, middle of February, so we're about a month and a half away. I wanted to take a look at the All-Star team last year because we've got a very curious case of the All-Star game this year. So let's get right into it. Team Kevin Durant, he was the captain for the East team last year. It was Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Ja Morant, Jayson Tatum, Andrew Wiggins, and Trae Young were the starters because Kevin Durant was injured. So I think it was Trae Young stepped in his replacement. Nonetheless, on his bench was LaMelo Ball, Devin Booker, Rudy Gobert, Zach LaVine, Chris Middleton, DeJounte Murray, Karl Anthony Towns, and Draymond Green. Draymond was injured, didn't play, but nonetheless got voted on. Team LeBron. LeBron chose Giannis, Steph Curry, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Jokic as his starters. Jared Allen, Jimmy Butler, Luka Doncic, Darius Garland, James Harden, who was injured and didn't play. Donovan Mitchell also did not play. Chris Paul and Fred VanVleet. Boys, I wanted to bring this up because let's take a look at those rosters last year and kind of forward look to this year. More than half of those teams aren't going to make it. Safe to say, right?
100%.
Troy, I know you've got the names in front of you, so why don't you read off just a couple of names? Let me put it this way: a couple of names that you could maybe make an argument that could make it this year, but probably still shouldn't.
Okay, so we'll start with the maybe with a couple question marks that I flopped down. Trae Young, that's a question mark. That's one that we were kind of, he's got some numbers, but by God, his team is nowhere near where people thought they were going to be. And not to mention, like, he's been in some drama. So, I mean, what do we think about Trae Young? There's another question mark with a guy like DeMar DeRozan.
I'm glad you brought them up because they're struggling bad.
But his numbers are solid. Like, I looked at him, I'm like, dang, that kind of surprised me. 26, 5, and 5, I believe, from DeMar DeRozan this season. That whenever I looked that up, because I was formulating some DeMar DeRozan trades, and I was like, yo, DeRozan's not playing that bad this year. So that's another kind of a question mark. Another question mark, Jimmy Butler. I mean, has he even played enough games to qualify?
That's always the case with Jimmy Butler. Is how many games does he play to even get into voting wise?
Yeah, because they're playing the Lakers coming up, and he was listed as questionable, and I'm like, dude, he's been questionable. I feel like all year long.
He's played 21 games. I mean, that's really, really, really pushing it.
Yeah, I mean, does he even have the numbers to
21.8, 6.8, and 5.8? So
I'd have you argue 12 guys above it, you know what I mean?
It gets interesting towards the bottom because you run into the same issue of they played enough games? How good is their team? All these types of things. Because Jimmy Butler, I mean, he's the best player on the Heat. The Heat are in the middle of the pack. I mean, do they deserve an All-Star?
And another question mark, big name, Chris Paul. Is Chris Paul? I mean, obviously, right now is a big time for Chris Paul's All-Star case because he could absolutely backpack the Suns to a competent record during this no Devin Booker stretch and formulate not only the respect because he's old and probably coming down to his later, years. So they tend to always want to have these types of dudes around, more of like a petty all-star selection. But if we're taking that out of the equation, is he an all-star?
I think you mentioned it right there. It's a big deal of how well this Suns team does without Devin Booker. Because I mean, he's only played 21 games as well. His stats are 12.3, 4.4, and 9 assists. I mean, doesn't stand out, especially with how well Devin Booker's been playing. Like, he'll definitely be the all-star. Now it's a matter of if he plays or not. But nonetheless, I don't know. Like that's another one you throw up in the air.
What do you think, Fred?
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, he might get a lot of votes just because he's Chris Paul. He holds that name value, which we can get into another debate about if the All-Star game should be fan voted or not. But that's okay. That's a day. That's another day.
And you want me to dive into absolute, in my opinion, locks to not make it?
Let's take the rest of the names here that for sure
Okay.
won't make it.
I'm just going to sandwich them all together, and you guys can kind of piece out whatever you want to piece out, okay? So for me, absolute locks to not make it would be LaMelo Ball, Rudy Gobert, Zach LaVine, Chris Middleton, DeJounte Murray, Karl Anthony Towns, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, Jared Allen, Fred VanVleet is 100% lock. And yeah, I believe that is all.
James Harden, I think you could maybe.
You make the case because of, again, this is kind of a question. 76er success. He's the second best player on that team, but does he play enough games? Like if he gets hurt again, he's probably not. So like maybe that's another guy to throw into the question mark category.
LaMelo Ball stats, they're pretty much right where they were last year. He's only played 11 games, so he's out of the question. And even if he played enough games, Hornets are one of the worst teams in the league. And I don't know. I don't know. Like I'm a proponent of if we value team success so much for MVP races, then we need to value team success for All-Star games. And I understand it's two different worlds of awards and whatnot, but nonetheless, that still comes into like bonuses for these players and everything else. So it's like, if we're valuing team success that much, let's value it all the way through.
Yeah, I agree.
Completely agree.
So that's all the guys from last year. Cause I mean, it's insane how many guys are going to be left off from last year. So there's going to be potentially a lot of spots opened up for this All-Star game this year. Let's take a look at our teams, who we voted for and where we're going. I'm going to start it off with this. Fred, who is your captain for this Western Conference team?
I'm going to go with Luka Doncic as my captain.
Okay.
Little Luka love.
Troy, I assume Luka made your starting five.
Yes.
Luka made my starting five as well. I would edge the captain probably to Jokic because, I mean, what Jokic has been doing, he's like – voter fatigue is such an important, like, factor for MVP, but like even with all like 2 in a row and everything else, you're still getting a lot of rumbles of people saying he should get 3 in a row. He should. And so I think a lot of love coming his way. And ultimately, it'll probably fall to LeBron James because this thing is just a popularity contest. But nonetheless, I view it is. I'm not saying LeBron doesn't deserve an all-star, but I'm saying to captain, I would give it to one of the guys.
You have to think as well, like now with the draft, it's more of a presentation thing and who draws eyes. I mean, you could argue Luka's going to be up there soon with just his interviews, like after his game. I know getting a little off topic here, but after his game saying he needs a beer to relax, like that's huge for people. People are going to love that, so like it is a huge thing. What can draw eyes, whether they be good or bad. So LeBron kind of takes the cake there.
I would love to see Jokic or Doncic though, because let them draft just a whole international team. And let's just go international versus USA. I don't see why not.
Shaq and Charles like talking back and forth with those two international players. Charles would be so funny.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. But so Luka Doncic is a lock for all three of us, quite obviously. And as of recording, Luka just dropped 60, 21, and 10. So it's without a question there. Troy, who is your captain?
So my MVP, Jayson Tatum.
Okay.
Captain for the Eastern Conference?
Eastern Conference is Jayson Tatum. Okay. I like that.
Is that what you asked, or did you go West?
Do West real quick.
Okay, Luka. Sorry, I thought you were asking.
Okay, you had Luka. So you
have Luka as my captain.
You both have Luka as your captain. I went with Jokic, quite obviously. Now, it's safe to say we all have Jokic as in our starting five as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so right there we have knocked out 2 players, 2 international phenomenons, Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic. Now things are going to get interesting, and I'm telling you right now, I think we're all going to disagree from the get-go. Let's take a look at our third starters technically here. Troy, who is your third starter for this Western Conference All-Star?
Does it matter what order I go in, or
just go with your last 2 guys, or your last 3?
So last 3, I really want to put Steph, but like, is Steph count? Like, because
So I gave
injuries-
Steph the vote. I gave in my. So we'll go
Okay.
one at a time here. We'll go one at a time. I'll knock this out of the way. I'm going to go ahead because my guy. I don't think you guys are going to agree. I gave Steph the vote. He's not
Okay.
going to play, in my opinion. So then I give it to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in my starting five for this Western Conference. And I don't care what anybody says. Shai, team record, I get it. Whatever, whatnot. You know, he's got guys ahead of him that are really hard in the guard spot. But I want to show Shai some love. This is my team after all. Give me Shai. Fred, you said you agree?
I do have Shai in my starting five, yeah.
Oh, my God. I love that. I love that. Troy, I assume you went differently.
I did. I went with Ja. I went with Ja over Steph because, like I said, with this injury concerns, I went with Ja as a guard there. Team success, points, athleticism. People love him. Ja.
Fred, talk about Shai for a little bit and then compare him to Ja and why you edged Shai out, other than just being completely biased. Let's be honest.
He's top 3 in scoring. I think he impacts the game for that Thunder team. I know their record, you know, they're 5 games below 500, something like that. I mean, but like you said, it's not really like the MVP. It's not record based. And I just think the numbers he's put up this year, he's put up multiple 30-plus games. It's insane what he's done on the floor. So I'm all for Shai. And like Ja's been great, but I just think Shai's been better from an individual standpoint.
Yeah, I think if you take Shai off of this Thunder team, they're easily the worst team in the league, and it's not even close. And just what he's been doing, I mean, he puts that team on his back in late games. He's brought them to, I mean, everybody thought they were going to tank this year. And then, you know, throughout certain points of the year, it's starting to definitely die down now. Nonetheless, like Shai has made this Thunder team fun. He's made them, do they have a chance for the play-in game? What's their future now if they don't tank? So I wanted to give him the love there. But, I mean, absolutely, Ja's not a wrong choice at all. Ja Morant is exciting on a whole nother level, and that's what this all-star game more than anything is about. Excitement, fun, and Ja is jaw dropping like on a nightly basis. You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, he's unreal.
So Troy switches his up for the first time and goes Ja. So Troy, I'll throw this one to you. Who's your next starter?
Maybe a little biased, Bron and AD. I just want Bron and AD.
Okay. I have an issue with that.
What's your issue?
The Lakers, record-wise, are 14-20, 13th in the Western Conference. They don't deserve 2 starters, in my opinion. 2 starters. I'm not saying both those guys shouldn't make it because I gave them, compared to everybody else in the Western Conference field, they're both going to make it. But I can't give two guys in 13th place, 6 games out of 500, the love there.
Yeah.
Fred,
even if they're putting up these types of numbers.
Yeah, I think I value team success just a little. Like, I value team success, and, you know, both of them together, you know, they're the highlights of their team, obviously, and you know that more than anybody. But, like, we have to factor in the record here. And the guy that I have to replace one of them, his team's a top 2 team in the West. So, you know, Fred, do you have either one of those Lakers in your starting 5?
I don't.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I will take it here, and I have AD. I have AD. More than likely will be now. Realistically, I put AD over LeBron because I thought originally AD wouldn't be playing in the All-Star game, and so I was like, I can give it to AD and LeBron will replace him. But if we talked off camera, you think AD will be playing?
Yeah, I do.
I'm gonna edge it out to AD and give AD. I know this LeBron will not be starting in the All-Star game. Let's get that twice.
Yeah,
so,
what?
Who's your last guy since we're already there?
My last guy is Zion Williamson.
Cool. I love me some Zion.
Zion Williamson, Pelicans, 2nd in the West right now. What he's doing to help lead this team on a nightly basis is phenomenal stuff. He's played 25 games, which I think is important. You know, that's always been a factor of his. 25 points, 7 rebounds, just under 5 assists. What he's done to help this Pelicans team be a legitimate threat in the Western Conference, I wanted to show him love there. So I went with Zion to round out my starting 5 Fred, you have your last two spots here. I feel like you're going to get really weird.
Yeah, he's
feel
about
like
to get so strange.
Yeah, I have Lauri Markkanen and Jeremy Grant.
wow.
I went the Jazz are
Wow.
hosting the All-Star game. It's in Utah, so I think Lauri Markkanen and what he's done in that Utah team, nobody thought it was possible. He's putting up insane numbers. He's the most improved player, in my opinion, in the league. He's doing it. And then Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant's also, I think, one of the most improved players this year. He's balling. 22 points, almost 5 rebounds a game. He just impacts winning in a lot of ways. And I just think it would be cool to see him start for the Western Conference.
Cool, or you like actually think Lauri's?
I think he's definitely been one of the best front court.
I did not factor in the fact that it's in Utah, so
I think he gets the nod. I
think he gets a nod, but starter I do think is a little bit of a stretch.
But I don't think Anthony Davis is going to play a lot of games. I just, especially leading up to the All-Star game.
That is true. Depending on how many more games Anthony Davis misses, with this injury, because I mean he's out for what's the diagnosed time he's out as of right now, Troy?
To be completely honest, they don't really have a diagnosed time. Like it's been one of the strangest.
Yeah. That's what I'm worried about.
Fred, I do understand that. Yeah,
it is so strange. All they said is mid-January is like the rough estimate of whether he'll get back on. Like I don't even know if it's so
I do think there's a big chance of Anthony Davis not even making it just because of games played. But as of right now, I wanted to show him some love. Troy obviously wanted to show him some love as well. But Fred, I like that. Your starting 5, Jokic, Luka, Shea, Lauri Markkanen, and Jeremy Grant.
Yeah.
Troy starting 5, Jokic, Luka, Ja, LeBron, and AD. And I went with Jokic, Luka, Shea, AD, and Zion. So let's just throw this right over to you, Fred. You got real weird. Let's get even weirder. Who is your captain for the Eastern Conference team?
Jayson Tatum is my captain for the Eastern Conference.
He shows respect. I love it. I love this guy.
And Troy, you already hinted at Jayson Tatum as your captain as well.
Yep, he's my captain.
What leads you guys to give him the nod here as not only a starter, because I do think he's deserving, but the captain? Fred, we'll start with you here. What decided that?
Just the level of play and that he's played more games than the rest of the guys. I feel like he's been on the court longer. And he's been extremely efficient in that time. Of course I wanted to put Joel Embiid as my captain, but just not going to happen. It would be fun to have an international guy versus an American guy as captains. I don't think they would go to internationals.
Troy?
I mean, Tatum, best player on the best team. I mean, and he's been putting unbelievable numbers. It feels like maybe not as eye-popping as guys like Luka and Jokic and Embiid, but still just consistent every night. Goes out there, competes, and plays on arguably the best team in basketball.
Yeah, right now he's averaging 31, 8, and 4. So
and another factor, in my opinion, is the NBA needs a new star. Like they have Giannis, who they're kind of going to, Luka, but they need that American star, like they need that, that guy.
I'd argue they'd want Ja as the face before they want Jayson Tatum.
I completely agree. But there comes a time.
But Tatum also plays in a bigger market.
And he's better.
Yeah, but I think marketability wise, Ja's got the hair, Ja's got the style, the flair.
Yeah,
he's got
his game's more flashy.
He's got the shoe now, he's got the signature shoe now. So but nonetheless, I don't have Jayson Tatum as my captain, but I do have Jayson Tatum in my starting lineup for sure. I went with Giannis as my captain. I think Giannis is an international superstar, putting up great numbers, 31, 11, and 5. Everybody loves Giannis. Personality-wise, game-wise, I think there's more to pick apart. But from personality-wise, I don't see how you don't like Giannis. And so I gave Giannis the nod there to be the captain yet again. I think he's fun. It'd be fun to watch him, draft this team again. But I think it's safe to say we all have Giannis in the starting 5, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so who is your guys' third starter? Because I do think we could either all completely agree here or we could start to disagree. But Troy, who's your third starter?
I'll get the easy one out of the way. Joel Embiid.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
Fred, that's your guy.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
what he's doing is fantastic. He might be the only all-star out of Philadelphia. I mean, you can make the case that that's not the case, but Fred, that's your guy. So why don't you just take the lead as to why you gave him the nod here?
Yeah, I wish he's played definitely more games than he has, but in those games, I mean, just look what he's done in the month of December. He's leading the league in scoring. He's just dominating. He's defending well. He's rebounding. He's playmaking. You can argue the way he does it, but dude's dominant, and he's hard to stop.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. He's another fun watch. I think a lot of people can complain about the free throws and whatnot, but still,
that's everybody though. You can make that argument about literally, almost every star these days.
Yeah. So 100% Joel Embiid, all of our lists here. We've got Giannis, we've got Jayson Tatum, and we've got Joel Embiid. The back court's where I think we could start to argue here. Mm-hmm. Fred, who is the first guy in your backcourt for the Eastern Conference?
Jaylen Brown.
Okay.
27 a game. Dude's just impacting winning, and he's on the best team. And I think, they deserve to have 2 all-star starters in Boston. They've been the best team all year, and I think Jaylen Brown's a big part of that. When Jayson Tatum's out, even when Jayson Tatum's in, you see the numbers Jaylen Brown puts up. Numbers don't lie, and he is doing it at a very efficient and consistent rate. And he is my favorite player in the NBA. So,
Fred, we've agreed up to this point. We agree here yet again. Best team in the league. They deserve 2 all-stars. And since he's eligible for that front court position with the numbers he's putting up, you got to give him the nod there. What he's doing in and of itself is impressive, but the fact that him and Tatum can coexist and play well and lead the Celtics team to the best record so far, be the best team, I gave Jaylen Brown the nod there as well for my starting backcourt. Troy, are you with us, Jaylen Brown?
No, I actually went with Donovan Mitchell.
Okay.
I have him as my last backcourt.
Well, I don't have Jaylen Brown as a starter.
Before you make the case for your last guy, I agree with Fred here, and I had Donovan Mitchell as my last spot for. So me and Fred have the same starting 5. But
yeah,
Troy, who's your last spot then for you? The starting 5.
So it's kind of strange because hearing Fred talk about Lauri is almost identical to why I picked this guy. And Caleb and Fred, I believe you both absolutely love this guy. It's a guy that got in the news for potentially wanting to be a wannabe all-star. My man Tyrese Halliburton. I mean,
I can't hate it.
This guy this year has literally made the Pacers
fun,
so much better, fun, exciting. They're a 500 team, and they play good ball. It's not even like they're he averages 20, 10, and 4. This dude's a star. This dude's a stud. And it's not even like he was a huge, prospect coming out in the draft. Of course, he was higher on the big boards, higher on the draft boards, but nobody expected him to be what he is right now. And not to say that should get taken into consideration, but just what he's done to Indiana and how hard I've been on Indiana in the past, they need a reset, they need a rebuild, they need a guy. Well, it looks like they found that guy to just make them better all around. So I wanted to give Halliburton a little bit of love and make him my 5th all-star starter.
Yeah, Tyrese Halliburton, 20 and a half points, 10 assists, 3.8 rebounds. The Pacers a lot of people were predicting the Pacers to be the worst team in the league.
And I did.
Yeah, I mean, they have a better record than the Hawks right now. I mean, they're rolling, they're rolling for as far as they're sitting 7th right now in the Western Conference, or Eastern Conference rather. 7th. That's above teams like Miami, Atlanta, Toronto, Chicago. A lot of people would have had over them. So I don't hate the pick. Do you have Jaylen Brown on your bench?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Jaylen Brown. So we all have Jaylen Brown in some way or another. Fred, I'll toss this to you. Who's your first guy on your bench for this Eastern Conference?
Guard or forward?
Whichever one you want to throw out there.
I'm going to go with the Washington Wizards' Kristaps Porzingis.
Wow.
I gave him some thought, I will admit.
I think he's done a lot for that Wizards team, and I definitely think he's kind of had a little career regeneration, if you will. He's putting up really good numbers, and, I know the Wizards lose a lot, but he's a stud, and I think he's been their best player.
So Troy's first guy on his bench is Jaylen Brown. Yours is Kristaps Porzingis. I split this up in terms of voting as guys on the bench that I have locks that I for sure would vote if I had the opportunity to, we don't vote bench. Most likely guys that, more than likely I would vote them in. And okay, I'm going to give them some thought. My first lock was Tyrese Halliburton. We all, everybody, Troy had him starting. I got him coming off the bench. My second lock, a guy that has not been brought up yet that I really thought, how does he not start with how well he's been playing, with how well his team's doing now? Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant as my lock coming off my bench. I think you could argue, could you argue a starting spot for Kevin Durant?
Yeah.
I just think that the forwards are just so low.
They're playing so much better. They're not, but like the team, like everything, like it's just tough because it's like Giannis is arguably the best basketball player in the world. Embiid's put 50, put 48 up. He's doing this stuff nightly, and Jayson Tatum's the best player on the best team. I don't see how you put one of Kevin Durant above either one of those guys. It makes it tough. I
completely agree. It hurts, and it's a shame to the format. Because if you only did one guard, you could argue Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, but then Kevin Durant would be a lock for something. So it's hard, to slide him in over the guys that we've already said. So I also had him. He was my second reserve.
Yeah.
And so I think Fred would agree. He's probably up there on Fred's list as well.
And then next guy.
He's definitely on my bench for sure.
Troy, who's your next guy off your Eastern Conference bench?
So his teammate Kyrie Irving. I think that they've done such a good job at just rejuvenating this Brooklyn Nets team. A lot of love to Jacques Vaughn. In a daily video, I harped on Jacques Vaughn, what he's been able to do with this Brooklyn Nets team. Like they just play hard for him. Kyrie Irving seems to have figured out all of his, drama. He hasn't been in the news cycle in a while. So good for him. But 26, 5-5 on the year. He's playing some of the best ball that I can remember seeing out of Kyrie. In terms of just he never, to me, like forces anymore. It's just like he plays so effortlessly, so smooth. He's never, like I said, going out of the way to just shoot 40 times. Like he's very he picks his spots super well. I'm a huge Kyrie guy this year. I'm a huge Brooklyn Net guy this year. I really like Kyrie. That's my third spot here.
Fred, I also have Kyrie Irving on my bench. I think he deserves it. Do you have Kyrie Irving on your bench?
Yeah, I do. I think Brooklyn and what he's done is just insane.
Okay, so Fred, who is the next guy on your bench that you have written down?
Bojan Bogdanovic from the Detroit Pistons
in
my front court.
Wow.
Another front court guy. I think he's done a lot for the Detroit team. I wasn't really high on him coming in. But again, another guy who's just putting up numbers. I know Detroit's not performing well, but again, it's not a record, a really big record consideration. And I think just throwing some variety, I would put Bogdanovic in there.
Yeah, I team success comes a part of it and whatnot. That Pistons team's one of the worst right now in the league, but that's a guy that's been playing phenomenal. What he's done for that Pistons team.
Yeah, he's doing great.
I can't hate on it. I can't at all. My next guy is Julius Randle of the New York Knicks. If you would have asked me a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I don't know if I would have had him on there. But right now he's averaging 23 points, 10 rebounds overall, and 4 assists. Really the driving factor of this New York Knicks team. They're starting to get rolling a little bit. They've lost a little bit in a row as well lately, but he's playing phenomenal. He's the driving force on that New York Knicks team, and I love what I've been seeing out of him. My next guy is Pascal Siakam from the Toronto Raptors. Another guy that, when he started off the year, he was lighting it up. For the season, he's played 24 games, so he's pushing it. I think ideally he'll be fine to keep playing and be secure, but he's averaging 26.6 points, 8.5 rebounds, 6.8 assists. Impressive stuff, because I'm very hard on Pascal Siakam. I don't like his game. It's, in my opinion, I hate watching him. But I had to give him some love there. This Toronto Raptors team is struggling, but I do think the way he's been playing has stood out, and I think he deserves a spot. Do either one of you have Pascal Siakam as well?
I do not.
I do. He's literally my fourth and my fifth. Like you just stole my fourth and my fifth with Pascal and then Julius Randle. Like those
I
two are
have
my
Julius Randle.
yeah. Pascal Siakam. We just made a daily show about like he was a huge part of the daily show that we just recently put out. Pascal Siakam, what he's been able to do with this, sputtering Raptors team, almost backpack them in certain ways. We're not seeing that growth from a guy like Scotty Barnes, like some of us had hoped. And Pascal's kind of just been that consistent heartbeat for the Raptors, and his numbers on the year are actually incredible: 26, 8, and 7. He's playing really, really good ball, consistent ball. Hovering right around 50% from the floor, 33% from downtown. As hard as we are on Pascal, he has formed himself into a dang good basketball player. So yeah, Pascal and Julius Randle are two members on my bench.
So Fred, you do not have Pascal Siakam.
Nope, but I do have Julius Randle.
Okay, who's the next guy on your bench?
I think this is my last guy. I think this would make total. Or no, I have two more.
Two more, yep.
Yeah, I have DeMar DeRozan and Tyrese Halliburton. I had Halliburton as well.
Okay, so make the case for DeMar DeRozan.
Another guy averaging big numbers, 26, 5, and 5. This is, I know, another great year for DeMar DeRozan. Pretty insane. I think he definitely deserves this consideration. He's done. I know the Bulls are another guy. A team's not performing, but I think he's done enough individually to get the nod.
So to round out you've got DeMar DeRozan. Guys that you left off, Troy, is there people he left off that you've got on here that you think
so my sixth
deserving?
My sixth was DeMar DeRozan. I also have him. And then my seventh guy was Darius Garland. So I think no Garland is interesting, but I see it. I mean, Darius Garland kind of getting overshadowed, hasn't played a lot all year. So I get it. Not having him fully locked into a spot yet, but I would lean Garland over a guy like Bogdanovich personally.
Yeah, I couldn't give the nod to Bogdanovich, but I do have DeMar DeRozan to almost round out my team here. I've got one more spot. Some guys I've thrown out: James Harden, Drew Holiday, DeJounte Murray, OG Anunoby, and Brook Lopez. Because Brook Lopez is having a
dang good year. He is playing really well.
Let's see. I've got I've got three guards and I've got one big man. Give me Brook Lopez to round out my five or my bench. Why not?
Oh gosh.
Let's throw him some love.
Oh,
I mean, what he's doing, he's averaging 2.5 blocks, 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. So, I mean, why not? So there's our five right there, or our bench rather. My bad. My apologies. But let's move over to the Western Conference here. Let's take a look at our
one.
So coming back to our Western Conference teams here, Fred, we'll go ahead and lock half of your bench up pretty much because you didn't have Ja Morant in your starting five. You didn't have LeBron James in your starting five, and you also didn't have Anthony Davis in your starting five. I think it's safe to say those are all on your bench.
Yeah, I also threw in your starter Zion Williamson on my bench. I put LeBron, Zion, and Davis all on my bench. And
so
half
of your bench is taken care of just right there alone with who you didn't have starting. I also had Ja Morant on my bench, and I also had LeBron James on my bench as well. So Troy, we'll throw this one to you. Who's your first two names coming up off your bench?
So first two names are actually, I believe, two of your starters, Caleb, Zion and Shea. Those are two names that I have. And another guy I have on my bench, shouts out to Fred with going ballsy, putting him in your starter, Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah.
So those are three names off my bench that have already been said that I did want to throw out there.
I've got three, technically four, but I've got two left of locks that I have. I would vote in here. That's Devin Booker and Damian Lillard for my bench. I just say, does everybody have both of them?
I don't have Damian.
I don't have Damian either.
Really? How come?
I have two guys over him.
I also have I believe. So I'm just going to give you my names. I went with Paul George over Damian Lillard.
I have Paul George.
Maybe can talk about some injuries or whatever. I went with Anthony Edwards over Dame.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I know. And then I went with maybe a little bias here. My closet fan might be coming out here. De'Aaron Fox over Damian Lillard.
Dame right now has played 22 games. He's averaging 28 and 7. And I mean, he's a guy that he's a six-time All-Star. Six-time All-Star already. Fans are going to show him love. He's going to get all the support. I think he end up making it. But Fred, why don't you just go ahead and round out the rest of your bench as well?
Yeah, so I had Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Devin Booker, Ja Morant, and my last spot went to Keldon Johnson of the San Antonio Spurs.
Keldon Johnson.
What you mean, Keldon Johnson? We act like he ain't balling this year.
I don't know. There's a lot of guys I would pick over Keldon Johnson. That's for sure.
I'm glad this is my list and not yours. I'll say that real quick.
I mean, I like that.
I got so mad I actually started calling you on my phone. I was closing my app and it freaking started calling. So that's how mad I am.
To round out my starting five, or God, I keep saying starting five. To round out my bench, I had Paul George. I agree with you, Troy. I have Lauri Markkanen. I agree with everybody. A name, Troy, I'm surprised you didn't throw out there. Domantas Sabonis.
He was like
my seventh one. That's my seventh one.
Wait, so no Jeremy Grant from either of you all?
I really considered it.
Drunk.
I have
Sabonis,
him.
Man. Give me
I have him written
bone.
down. I have Jeremy Grant written down. I think you could make our. How many games has Paul George played up to this point? Let me look.
Not a lot.
He's played 20. He's played 26. That's not bad.
Oh, I like it.
I think I would give Paul George the edge over Jeremy Grant. But, dude, I mean, Jeremy Grant was right on my list. Anthony Edwards was also consideration. De'Aaron Fox consideration.
So he was on your bubble. Anthony Edwards was on your bubble.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did we have you want to hear some? I had Aaron Gordon on my bubble. I've loved what I've
seen.
I did love Aaron Gordon.
And I had Christian Wood just because what he's been doing helping Dallas out. But is anybody
Kyle
else
Kuzma? Kyle Kuzma.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it.
Fred, you got anybody on your bubble that didn't make it?
Let me double check, man. Let me re-pull up my list here. There's just
he got frustrated and closed out, man. He was not a fan of us not having Jeremy Grant.
There's just so many. I mean, Darius Garland was definitely on mine. Just could we make an argument for a guy like Tyler Hero?
I don't think so.
Or is that just
I think you can. I think you can. I think you can.
What about BI, Brandon Ingram? Not enough games.
I thought about it, but I didn't think. I haven't looked. I haven't checked. I can look right now to be positive, but I thought there's no way he's played enough games. He's only played 15, so
okay.
If not, I would have definitely considered him. But a guy that we didn't even consider mentioning who's putting up the numbers is Trae Young. Nobody had him.
I hate Trae Young with every facet of my being.
I'm a Trae guy, man. I've loved Trae. I was the Hawk guy. The Hawk as the Hawk.
You're the Hawk guy before it was cool.
Yeah, I'm the Hawk whisperer. Everybody hopped on. Everybody hopped on board this offseason, and I was off of it. And it was because of this discourse. Trae Young. They're just not happy. They're not a happy bunch right now. Trae Young is just working through some issues he's never worked through before with some locker room turmoil. They're going to be okay, just not this year. Get John Collins out of there, get a few guys. It's not a him problem. Trust me. He got them to the Eastern Conference Finals, brother. You forget that season. It was not a fluke. It was not a fluke.
Talk to me.
I mean, up to this point, it's shown to be a
fluke. You think it's like the Portland Trailblazers making the conference finals? Is it that sort of fluke? Like, really? I think
they didn't even make the playoffs. They didn't even make the playoffs last year.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Touche.
Well, we're getting off topic here. We hate Trae Young, other than Trae.
Check out every video we mentioned Trae Young, so just go check out any of them.
Yeah, but nonetheless. It's a very curious case of the All-Star game this year because all the names that I don't know what's going to happen. But Fred, why don't you get us out of here?
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. The All-Star game is about a month away, or actually probably a month and a half away. So we're definitely going to see some change-ups here, a couple gyro balls, maybe a 12-6 curve, sweeping curve. We'll see. We'll see who comes in there. Shouts out all to the Kentucky kids who make it. Don't be a star. Don't be a superstar. Change the game. Be an X factor. See you guys next time. God bless and peace out.